The deplorable state of the country's road network. Nigeria boasts the largest road network in West Africa, yet poor infrastructure, insecurity, and years of neglect have turned these lifelines into liabilities. A new report by SBM Intelligence titled Road to Nowhere, a bumpy ride through Nigeria's roads, reveals the staggering economic, social, and also human toll of poor road conditions. From Lagos to Maiduguri, these roads cost us billions of naira annually, and causes us loss in productivity, higher transport costs, and even tragic road accidents. We've seen them all.
Oh, yes, indeed. And so joining us to unpack this report is Stanley Ikechukwu. He is the operations manager at SBM Intelligence. Now, before we bring in Stanley, here's a quick look at the highlights of SBM findings. Nigeria's road network spans over 108,000 kilometers, but over 60% of it is in poor condition. In SBM Intelligence's latest survey, 86% of transport operators report higher vehicle maintenance costs due to bad roads, with delays and increased fuel consumption further impacting businesses and also individuals as well. There are also key highways like the Lagos-Ibadan and Port Harcourt-Warri that are plagued by potholes, poor drainage, and frequent security concerns. On average, travel times across major routes are 50 to 100% longer than estimated due to these issues.
It depends what you're riding. In any case, the economic implications are severe. With transport costs rising and operators passing these costs on to passengers, insecurity remains a major concern, as over 80% of respondents report encountering or hearing about security incidents on Nigerian roads. But it's not just an economic issue, it's a matter of safety and survival. Over 28% of road users reported accidents linked to poor road conditions in the last year alone.
So let's bring in Stanley Ikechukwu. Like I said from earlier, he's from SBM Intelligence, and we're going to delve deeper into this critical topic. Stanley, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Do you travel much across Nigeria?
Yeah, interestingly, I've actually gone around Nigeria.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, and, I think I'm on my second trip around Nigeria.
Fantastic. That's beautiful.
Well, I actually stopped that second trip when the banditry issue became a major problem.
Oh, no. So the report calls Nigeria's road network a bumpy road to nowhere, hence our topic, Path to Nowhere. I mean, how did SBM Intelligence arrive at this conclusion, and what prompted this updated evaluation that we've seen?
So what happened is that we spoke to about 245 drivers. We also monitored about 245 routes. So most of the drivers we spoke to, their responses remain that the roads are terrible, making it very difficult to connect state to state and city to cities. And most of the passengers we also spoke to also complained about delayed time. They get to their destination very late because of the bad roads. And also, my coming here was also very bumpy because the roads are not good. And my driver actually took about 38 minutes to arrive at my own place, even after speaking to him earlier much enough. So my point is that in the general sense of view, the roads are actually not good. And I almost missed, the time in here. It would have been a road to nowhere.
Not in itself.
Yeah, thank you that you guys extended time for me.
Thank you.
Well, we had to. You're esteemed. That's why we wanted you here.
Thank you so much.
Talking about these terrible roads, if we are to calculate, say, how much they cost Nigeria's economy, what would it be? And I'm talking about transportation of goods, services, long distance. We even have to transport our own oil as well via these roads. How much is it costing us when it comes to maintenance of these vehicles, or the costs that are being passed on to passengers?
Well, the truth is that I cannot exactly give you a figure, but I know it's running into billions of naira in car maintenance. If you look at the entire road, we have the A1, A2, A3, A4 road properly planned, but the distance and the bad road has actually caused a lot of drivers to spend more time at the mechanic, and cost of spare parts has actually also gone up. And they pass down this cost to passengers, which is also bringing up the issue of transport inflation currently that we're facing.
So there's bad roads, there's fuel price hike, there's maintenance of vehicle, and we are the ones paying for it as commuters, as passengers.
Yes.
Wow. That is a lot.
I'm looking at, the report, right? And the report highlights varying conditions across regions. It begs to ask a question. Varying conditions, and that means some parts actually have good roads and some have bad roads. So why are some roads improving while others continue to deteriorate?
So there's something about the whole system. The roads are divided into two. There's a federal government road and there's a state road. The federal government, out of the 108,000 kilometers of road that Nigeria has covered, federal government takes about 32,000 kilometers of that road. So most of the other roads that have not been done are actually state roads. And most of those state roads, you also find a lot of federal roads inside of those states. And those governors are saying that we cannot do this road because they are not under our own purview. It's the federal government road. There was a time that under Fashola, when he was Minister for Roads and States, he said that state governments can actually do some of these roads and pass down the bill to the federal government, and they will pay. But what we noticed is that our roads are always, the cost to do the road are always very high. The budget are always overpriced. So the minister then said he would no longer go ahead with that agreement.
Are bridges part of the federal purview?
Yes, there are some bridges that are part of it.
What about bridges inside of bridges generally? I was of the opinion that they were actually supposed to be federal government, hence why states don't touch them because of the large maintenance figures that have to go into. The 3rd Mainland Bridge, for instance, that's a federal.
Yeah, that's a federal, but there are some other bridges inside so many states that are actually owned by states and were commissioned by state governments.
Another theme that was recurring in this report was insecurity. What practical steps do you think that the government is taking to tackle insecurity, especially on the roads, for the safety of road users? Because you just said you were going on a tour of Nigeria again a second time and then had to pause because of banditry.
Okay, so if you look at, say, the A4 road, where it starts from Cross River State and ends in Maiduguri, that route is actually very bad. The port is not working. That's why we see a lot of congestion in Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. If the port in, say, Cross River State was working, there will be no need for people to come down to Lagos to do the shipping and the clearing. They just do it in Cross River and they move straight to Maiduguri. Now, talking about the security, where the insecurity actually started was on that A4 road. Boko Haram, Maiduguri State, it was on that A4 road. Herdsmen issue, farmers and herdsmen issue, Plateau State and Benue State is on the A3 and A4 roads. The whole IPOP and Biafra agitation is also on that A3 road, actually, the East-West road. So those are where the security issues are actually turned into the other states. Now, the federal government has done some things, but I don't think it's enough. We've done more of the stick approach, like fighting this insecurity, trying to curb the whole problem. But we also need to look at what are causing these issues, which is the carrots. So we need to actually improve the economic standards of living for people. We need to reopen, the ports outside of Lagos, so that the economic activities on this road can begin to thrive.
I will break you there, Ikechukwu. Tell you what we're going to do. We're going to go on a short break because when we return, Judith will be bringing us the news, and then after that, we'll continue this discussion on the road to nowhere, taking a look at the state of Nigerian roads. We'll be back.
And you're welcome back. Unfortunately, we won't be able to bring you the news for this hour. That's the headline news of this hour, but not to worry. We'll bring you the full package or the full bulletin at the top of the hour for 12 noon. It's back to our discussion on our roads, and that is the Nigerian roads now, which is giving a report by SBM Intelligence. Joining us in the studio to continue the discussion is Stanley Ikechukwu. He's the operations manager at SBM Intelligence. He's giving us more insight on the cost of neglecting Nigeria's road network. Now, before the break, we're talking about insecurity on the roads and basically what it means for Nigeria's commutes, and then we also talked about, the cost of it, who should bear the cost of repairs, whether the state government or the federal government. One of the things that was made mention in this report was the amount it's been that it costs in terms of productivity for our country. And I think that I need for you to put into perspective what we're losing every single day because of this road, because of the state of our roads.
Okay, thank you for that question. Like I said, let me go back to when we started this conversation. I was supposed to be here earlier than this, but because of the timing, the driver didn't come on time. So if it was a business I was going for, I probably would have missed that business because the roads are not good. That was what the driver complained about. The roads were bumpy, potholes, and all of that. So I came late, but you guys were gracious enough to still accommodate me. If it was a business transaction, I might have lost it. So these are some of the issues that affects productivity. Delayed timing. You spend more than what is required to cover a distance. Say a distance of Calabar Itu Road into Port Harcourt usually will take around 55 minutes, but because of the bad conditions of the road, it's taking almost 4 hours.
Warri to Port Harcourt, did you say?
No, Calabar Itu
Road into Port Harcourt. Yeah, so it's taking about four hours. Yeah, and every time costs money. The driver is not going to just buy fuel and burn everything on the road. He would have to pass the cost down to the consumer. Also, if you are able to cover the distance on time, which means efficiency, you are able to make more money. If a delivery guy is supposed to deliver something to somebody, and he said in 30 minutes because I need to be at the airport, I have a trip, and we're not there in 30 minutes, he cancels it. That's also a loss for businesses like that, and we've seen it around so many businesses. Yeah, agricultural products
good
too.
Roads would actually increase the frequency of time that he could go on rounds.
Exactly.
That's more productivity for him.
Exactly.
But where there are bad roads, it's the other way
exactly.
around.
And also bringing down food commodity from the north down to Lagos, because most of these goods are perishable. If you spend like tomato, it has to arrive.
Tell me about that.
Very quick. If you spend more than a day on the road, most of these things begin to deteriorate.
I'll tell you a story.
If you go to say my 12 now, most of the trucks that land with perishable goods, you see more than half of it are being thrown away, wasted. The other half, the prices are increased so that they can, make
recover their loss.
I'll tell you a story. Once endeavored in agriculture, and it was a bad endeavor because half of my produce just perished on the way. So I never tried it again. And it was due to the bad roads. Funny that we're having this conversation now. That was about 12 years or so ago. However, we're talking about the state of these roads, but we're actually overlooking one bit, the quality of the roads or the quality of maintenance of these roads. We see contracts being awarded here and there. We see these fine, beautiful roads put up after so much back and forth. But no sooner are they opened or what's the word when you cut the thing, launched, they go bad again. So is there any adequate quality, how do you put it, assurance that goes into checking these contractors and the quality that they're using to make these roads? Because most of the good roads in the north are from the 80s and they still stand till today. The roads that are made last year, I can tell you a couple of them that have been washed up. Go to Insecurity, for instance. Last year, they tried. But now, all those good roads have been washed out.
Okay, let's look at the north. You said most of the roads there have been done since in the 80s and they're still standing the test of time. There was a trip I did from Sokoto down to Goronyo. It was about, we drove for like 45 minutes, no car passed us and we didn't pass any car.
That would happen.
So it simply meant that those roads are actually not they don't use heavy traffic. When you compare to roads down south here, where you move most of the trucks, from time to time, those heavy loads are on it. But again, more importantly, the roads that we do down here south, the contracts are always overhyped, over-increased, and it's because of the kickbacks. Say a contractor is being awarded a road for 10 naira now, the people who made it possible for him are taking, say, 4 naira out of it. Yeah, and the cost of the road, the contractor is actually going to make his own profits. So whatever is left is what he uses to do the road. All what they want to say is, okay, the road has been done, but we don't look at the quality because kickbacks have been paid and the money available is not enough to actually provide quality roads. So that's why we're seeing most of those roads in the south here that doesn't last.
And lastly, because we're pretty much pressed for time, despite yearly allocations, because we're back at this conversation again in terms of budgets, and a majority, a substantial amount, a percentage of all this budget, whether at the federal or at the state level, goes into, capital projects and, infrastructure, road infrastructure. And so it begs to ask the question, in spite of all of this, there's little progress visible. What is the issue? Is it implementation? Is it not enough capital, or not enough allocation, or is it just corruption?
The three of them.
Right.
The three of them. If we look at it from the corruption side of it, like I mentioned, the contracts are always over-bloated, and there's always kickbacks. So before you know, those roads, the cost to do the roads will reduce. Talking about implementation again, they don't go back to inspect some of these roads to be sure, because they've collected kickbacks, so it will be of no use. Then on the budgeting side, and we don't have so much money at the moment to say we want to build some of those super strong roads. So those are part of the reasons why these roads don't last.
And lastly, the report also suggested leveraging on public-private partnership, PPPs, to fund and manage capital, and in this case, road infrastructure. How visible is this?
So some of the PPPs actually work, and I think that's like the best way to go, because when the private people put in their money, they make sure that they bring in quality and they bring in the best of hands. We've seen the Lekki concession, the Lekki seaport was a PPP project. The Azuri power project that built about 453 megawatts was a PPP project.
The concrete road in Apapa that was Dangote refinery.
That was more like
write-off on his tax.
Yeah, exactly. So the Abuja hospital was PPP. We've seen the BRT actually is also PPP, funded by private individuals. The Lagos education scheme also has some PPP in it.
But for roads, you're going to transfer that cost back to the people who use these roads.
Tolls.
Yeah, as tolls. But I mean, if you ask me, I think it makes sense to pay tolls when the roads are good, because if you calculate what you're paying in toll every month and compare it to what you'll be paying to mechanics, it makes sense to even pay the toll.
All right, thank you. That's
Stanley, always very insightful conversation having you join us. And I didn't say Happy New Year to you. It's Happy New Year to you, Stanley.
Welcome to 2025.
Thank you. Welcome.